Hey everybody, welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're going all the way back to the fundamentals with basketball skills and drills. This one's a classic.
Yeah,
I mean, it's been a coaching staple for years.
it has.
Written by Jerry Krause, Don Meyer, and Jerry Meyer.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say classic because Krause started coaching way back in '59.
Oh, wow.
His experience spans from high school to college, even internationally. So you're getting a really broad perspective here.
So I dove right into this thing, and one thing that really struck me is the way they talk about drills. Like, they're adamant that drills are just tools.
Oh, that's a crucial point, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the drill itself and kind of lose sight of the actual skill that you're trying to develop.
Totally. And they even quote legendary coaches like Hank Iba and Joe Paterno, who are all about practicing in a game-like way.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we make sure that those drills translate to real game situations?
Well, they really emphasize understanding the why behind each drill. Like, what specific aspect of the game is it designed to improve?
Right.
And how can you practice it in a way that really mimics that pressure and decision-making of a real game?
So it's not just going through the motions. It's about being intentional and game-focused.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that stood out to me was they break down skill learning into 3 stages, beginning, intermediate, and automatic.
And that's where it gets really fascinating because they argue that most players get stuck in that intermediate stage where they can perform the skill decently in practice, but they struggle under game pressure.
It's like that difference between knowing how to do something and actually being able to do it instinctively at game speed, when it really counts.
Exactly. The automatic stage is where that muscle memory kicks in, and you're not overthinking every move, you know?
Right.
They even talk about engaging all your senses during practice.
So not just watching and listening to instructions, but really feeling the movements in your own body.
Yeah. Exactly. It's about developing that deep, intuitive understanding of the skill, almost like a sixth sense for how your body needs to move.
Wow.
And they even talk about the power of visualization, like actually picturing yourself successfully executing the skill.
Like those Olympic athletes that mentally rehearse their routines before competing.
Yeah.
I could see how that would build confidence and prepare your mind for the real thing.
Yeah.
For sure. Now, another interesting point they bring up is the emphasis on communication, both from coaches to players and between players themselves.
Ultimately.
And they make it clear that effective communication is the foundation of a successful team.
Yeah.
But what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, for coaches, it's about tailoring your approach to each player's learning style. Some players respond best to visual demonstrations, others need more verbal explanations, and some, learn best by doing.
So understanding how your players learn best is key.
Right, and they also talk about giving specific feedback rather than just generic praise. Instead of just saying, nice shot, you could say, great job squaring your shoulders to the basket.
Right.
That kind of feedback gives players something concrete to work with.
It's highlighting those small adjustments that can make a big difference in their performance.
Well, exactly.
And they're also big on consistent error correction. Encouraging players to acknowledge, understand, and then let go of their mistakes.
It's that whole growth mindset, right?
Yeah.
Mistakes are opportunities for learning and improvement.
Totally dwelling on them won't help anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so communication is key, but before any of that, you need solid body control and movement on the court.
And this is where foot fire comes in. They really hammer this concept home.
Foot fire.
Active engaged feet are the foundation for everything. Quickness, balance, both on offense and defense.
So being light on your feet, ready to react in any direction, but how does that actually play out in different game situations?
Well, they give a great example with the offensive triple threat position.
Yeah.
This is that quick stance, where you're ready to shoot pass or drive to the basket. They describe it as pitting and protecting the ball in that shooting pocket.
Yeah, I'm already seeing how foot fire is essential here. Like, you need to be able to shift your weight, pivot, explode in any direction, all while maintaining control of the ball.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then on the defensive end, it's about reacting quickly to the offensive players' movements, staying in front of them and keeping them from getting to the basket.
So whether you're on offense or defense, foot fire is the key to staying a step ahead.
Yeah.
Now, the book also gets into quick starts, steps, turns, and stops, all those fundamental movements that are so essential for both offense and defense.
And here's where I had kind of an aha moment that compare the quick stop technique to a gymnast's dismount.
Hold on, how does basketball relate to gymnastics?
Well, they say the landing should be firm but soft. Like a gymnast, sticking the landing, you're coming to a complete stop, but you're also absorbing that impact and maintaining your balance.
So it's not just about slamming on the brakes. It's about controlled deceleration ready to move in a new direction.
Yeah, and they apply that same principle to rebounding.
Okay.
Their phrase for the 2-foot power jump is going up tall and small, coming down big and wide.
Okay, that's one for the highlight reel. I can already see that visual, reaching high for the rebound, then landing in a strong balanced position, ready to protect the ball.
Right, it's all about maximizing your chances of securing those rebounds. Now, one area that often gets overlooked, even by experienced players, is moving effectively without the ball.
It's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in what you're doing when you have the ball, but what about when you don't?
They argue that purposeful movement without the ball is crucial for creating scoring opportunities for yourself or your teammates. It's about reading the defense, finding open spaces, and making yourself a threat, even when you're not the primary ball handler.
They even have a little acronym for this RPA, which stands for rim post action.
Yeah. It's a simple but effective mental checklist for players to go through, when they catch the ball. First, look for the rim. Is there an open shot?
Okay.
Then check the post. Is there a teammate open inside? And finally, take action, whether it's shooting, passing, or making them move to the basket.
I like that it's a way to stay engaged and decisive, even in the heat of the moment. And it brings up their idea of being an actor on the court.
Right.
Using believable fakes to create those opportunities.
It's about keeping the defense guessing right by making them think you're going one way when you're really going another.
Totally.
You can open up all sorts of possibilities for yourself and your teammates.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. The stages of skill learning, the importance of communication, mastering your body control, and those essential movements both with and without the ball.
Yeah, this is just scratching the surface.
Oh, really?
We're about to get into the heart of it all, ball handling.
All right, let's pass the ball over to part 2 and see what basketball skills and drills has to say about passing, catching, and of course, dribbling.
Welcome back to our deep dive. We just left off talking about the importance of those sneaky fakes to keep the defense on their toes.
Right, and now I'm ready to get into the nitty-gritty of ball handling.
Yeah.
I mean, passing, catching, dribbling, it's all so fundamental, but this book dives into some really specific techniques I hadn't considered before.
It's interesting you say that because right off the bat, the authors argue that passing should be your primary offensive weapon.
Really?
Not dribbling.
That's surprising. I always thought dribbling skills were like the key to breaking down a defense.
Well, they make the case that passing is the quickest way to move the ball and exploit those defensive weaknesses.
Okay.
They even highlight players like Magic Johnson and John Stockton.
Oh, yeah.
Who built their entire Hall of Fame careers on making that simple, smart pass.
It's not about those fancy moves. It's about making that decisive pass that leads to a score.
Right.
But what about catching the ball? That seems pretty straightforward, but they dedicate a whole section to it.
And that's because, as they point out, a dropped pass can be just as damaging as a turnover.
Oh, for sure.
They advocate for what they call catching with a click.
Click.
2 hands and eyes focused on the ball meeting the pass to shorten that passing lane.
It's about being a reliable target for your teammates and taking away those precious milliseconds from the defense.
Exactly.
Now let's talk dribbling. They actually emphasize that dribbling is a touch skill, not a sight skill.
This is one of those aha moments for me.
Okay.
They encourage players to practice dribbling up the court without looking at the ball.
Whoa.
The idea is to develop that feel so you can keep your eyes up scanning the court for opportunities.
Makes so much sense. It's like driving a car. You need to be aware of your surroundings, not just staring at the steering wheel.
Right.
But what about when you're in traffic or in basketball terms, you're facing a tight defense?
Well, that's where they differentiate between the types of dribbles.
Okay.
They talk about the low or control dribble, which is used in crowded situations, or when you need to protect the ball. It's all about keeping that ball low and close to your body, using your body to shield it from defenders.
Then there's the power dribble, where you're really using your strength and like a sliding foot motion to push past defenders.
And of course, the speed dribble for those fast breaks and quick transitions up the court.
But what about those flashy moves, the crossovers, the behind the backs? Do they get into those?
They do, but with a caveat.
Okay.
They stress that these moves should be used strategically, not just to show off.
Right.
It's about effectiveness and making the move that will best help your team.
So a crossover might be the perfect move to create separation for a jump shot,
Yeah.
but it might not be the smartest choice in a crowded lane.
Exactly. And they also get into the change of pace dribble, which is all about keeping the defender off balance by varying your speed.
Okay.
And the in and out dribble, which is a great way to fake out your opponent and create space.
I like that. And they emphasize mastering these moves with both your dominant and your non-dominant hand.
Becoming ambidextrous with your dribbling opens up so many more options on the court. You're no longer predictable, and you can attack from any angle.
Speaking of angles, let's shift our focus to shooting, arguably the most exciting aspect of basketball.
Right. They break shooting down into 3 key elements:
Okay.
mechanics, techniques, and free throws.
All right, let's start with shooting mechanics. What do they consider the most important principle?
They emphasize the OBE principle: open, balanced, and eyes on target.
OBE.
They argue that these 3 elements are crucial for any successful shot, regardless of the technique you're using.
So it's about setting yourself up for success before you even release the ball. Being open gives you a clear shot balance, ensures accuracy, and focusing on the target.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty self-explanatory.
And here's where it gets interesting. They argue that the most overlooked aspect of shooting mechanics is actually the landing position.
You mean even for set shots?
Exactly. They say that the landing should mimic that of a good jump shot, slightly forward, just as if you were propelling yourself towards the basket.
So even though you're not jumping on a set shot, the footwork and balance principle should be the same. It's all about creating that consistent, repeatable motion.
They also break down those key elements of shooting mechanics like grip, stance, release, follow through, and the importance of backspin for accuracy.
Right, backspin helps the ball go in more smoothly, and they also get into specific shooting techniques like bank shots, jump shots, hook shots, and layups.
For bank shots, they advise using the backboard for higher percentage shots, especially in those crowded areas where it's tough to get a clean look at the rim.
And I like that they emphasize using the backboard even for layups, especially when driving at an angle. It just creates a bigger target and increases your chances of making that shot.
Right, and for post players, they highlight the importance of creating contact with defenders and using their bodies to establish position.
It's about being strong and using your body to create that space for a shot rather than shying away from contact.
Exactly, and they discuss mastering those fundamental post moves like the drop step, the power move, and the up and under.
So a lot to unpack when it comes to shooting techniques.
Yeah.
But it's all about understanding the nuances and executing the appropriate technique for each specific situation.
Now let's not forget about free throws.
Free throws can make or break a game.
They can.
What are some of their key takeaways for improving at the free throw line?
They stress the importance of developing a consistent routine.
Okay.
A set ritual at the line that helps eliminate distractions and promotes focus.
Okay.
They also talk about pausing at the bottom of the shot, building that tension, and then releasing it smoothly.
It's about eliminating those extraneous movements and honing in on the pure mechanics of the shot.
Right, and of course they advocate for spending a significant amount of practice time on free throws.
Of course.
They even provide specific percentage goals for different age groups, which I think is really helpful for setting those realistic expectations and tracking progress.
So we've explored ball handling, shooting mechanics, and techniques, but there's so much more to basketball than just individual skills.
Right. What about those dynamic moves on the perimeter?
Well, that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive. Join us as we delve into playing the perimeter and mastering those outside offensive moves that can really open up the game. Welcome back to our deep dive into basketball skills and drills.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground from the fundamentals of passing and shooting to the importance of those sneaky off-ball movements.
And now we're heading into the paint where things can get a little more physical.
That's right. We're talking about post play, those inside offensive moves that can really dominate the game from close range.
And this section of the book emphasizes that post play is not just about size and strength. It's about finesse footwork and using your body intelligently.
One thing they really stress is the effective use of the backboard.
Oh, yeah.
They argue that bank shots are incredibly valuable, especially in crowded areas where it's tough to get a clean look at the rim.
I always thought bank shots were more for those longer range shots, but they even recommend using the backboard for layups.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems counterintuitive.
Well, they make the case that when you're driving to the basket at an angle, using the backboard can actually increase your chances of making the shot.
Okay.
It creates a larger target and takes some of the pressure off needing perfect accuracy.
So it's about understanding those angles and using the backboard to your advantage regardless of the type of shot you're taking.
Exactly. Now, another key concept they emphasize is the importance of initiating contact with defenders.
This is where that physicality comes into play, right? I can see how shying away from contact would be a disadvantage in the paint.
They advocate for being the aggressor, not the reactor.
Okay.
Using your hips and upper thighs to create space-establishing position before receiving the ball.
So it's not just about being strong, it's about using your strength strategically.
Right. They also highlight the importance of keeping your hands up when you're in the post ready to receive a pass.
Yeah, it seems obvious, but with all the jostling down there, I can see how it'd be easy to let your hands drop.
They point out that passes can come quickly and unexpectedly in the paint. Keeping those hands up makes you a more reliable target for your teammates and reduces the risk of turnovers.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of using the backboard and initiating contact, but let's get into those specific post moves.
One of the first moves they discuss is the drop step, which is a great way to create separation from your defender.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about catching the ball with your back to the basket, quickly dropping your inside foot back towards the baseline, and then pivoting towards the basket for a shot or a pass.
Yeah, it's a move I've always admired. It just seems so quick and decisive.
And it's all about using your momentum and leverage to your advantage.
Right.
They also cover the power move, a classic for those strong post players who can really overpower their defenders.
This is where that strength training really pays off, right?
Exactly. It's about sealing off your defender with your body, taking a dribble or two towards the basket, and then finishing with a powerful shot.
And they emphasize using the backboard on those power moves, especially when there's contact from defenders.
That backboard is your friend in the paint.
For sure.
It gives you a margin for error and helps you maintain control of the ball.
Now, they also talk about the up and under move, which seems a bit more deceptive and relies on finesse.
The up and under is all about faking out your defender.
Okay.
You start by making an upward motion as if you're going to shoot a hook shot.
Right.
But then you quickly bring the ball back down and finish with a layup.
It's like a basketball head fake.
Yeah.
I could see how that would throw defenders off balance and create an opening.
They also cover moves like the reverse pivot, the jump hook, and the turnaround jumper, each with its own set of nuances and techniques.
It seems like post players need a whole arsenal of moves at their disposal, ready to adapt to whatever the defense throws at them.
And just like any skill, they stress the importance of practicing these moves diligently until they become second nature.
It's about building that muscle memory so you can react instinctively in the heat of the game.
Exactly. Now, no discussion of post-play would be complete without talking about rebounding.
Of course, rebounding is huge.
They emphasize that rebounding is all about effort, determination, and technique.
Right. They go through those fundamental principles, boxing out your opponent, going up strong with two hands, and securing the ball.
And they have this interesting tip about chinning the ball after you grab a rebound.
Chinning the ball, what does that even mean?
It means bringing the ball up close to your chin, protecting it from defenders, and giving yourself a moment to gather your thoughts before making your next move.
It's a small detail, but I can see how it would make a big difference in securing those crucial rebounds and preventing turnovers.
So as you can see, basketball skills and drills is a treasure trove of information for anyone looking to master the art of post play.
From bank shots and drop steps to power moves and up and unders, it covers all those essential moves and techniques. And as always, they emphasize the importance of consistent practice, a deep understanding of the game, and that relentless pursuit of improvement.
This deep dive has been a fascinating journey through the fundamentals of basketball. We've covered everything from footwork and ball handling to shooting and those crucial post moves.
And while basketball skills and drills provides a fantastic foundation, it's important to remember that the real learning happens on the court.
So get out there, put these insights into practice, and keep pushing yourself to become the best player you can be.
Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, there's always room for growth and improvement in this amazing game.
And that's what makes basketball so rewarding, that constant challenge to learn to adapt and to master new skills.
So keep practicing, keep learning, and most importantly, keep having fun on the court.